Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera and watch as things inevitably go boom. But today we're going to be fighting against cubes quite a bit, I suspect. We'll just sort of have to find out. But first things first, let me show you what I've been working on. Been in the garage working hard on these, so you know, I thought we'd take a look at them anyways. You might have got an idea from the preview image. So here we have our wonderful wagon model, fully fitted up to actually be proper original proportions, as well as proper texturing and such. And here's the first thing I'm going to demonstrate. So if I come over here, we can see that it has a completely solid floor. There we are, you can see my feet just poking out. But I'm not standing, like, seat level, essentially. Which, I don't know if I necessarily like that you can stand in the seat like this, but yeah. Secondly, if I right-click on it, there we go, we are on the seat, quite happily, just sort of like chilling here. There are multiple seat positions, but it's a little hard for me to show them off right now because I would need to actually be added. I would need to ride the wagon when there was already people in those other seats, So, yeah. But the other seats are one just sort of off to my left, and then one over my right shoulder at the back there, on the, I guess, the stoop, whatever you'd call it. That sort of thing. Very fun, very nice, already looking quite good. So that is a 3-person capacity. That is more than a vanilla boat has, which makes sense to me because boats are tiny compared to these things. If that can hold 2, this should at least be able to hold 3. Possibly more like a dozen. But I feel like a dozen is maybe stretching credence a little bit. The next thing is I have put together icon items for all of the vanilla wood types. So we have all of these wheels, we have all of these chassis. There's no recipes for them just yet, you can't actually make these, but you know, we're getting there. And having all of these means we can actually use them all over there, which is lovely. Little special detail here, because these are all blocks, they all have materials, and the only thing that prevents a never-born tree, like the crimson stem and whatnot, from burning versus the vanilla, like, overworld trees, is that they have a different material called neverwood. These also use neverwood, so if you have a crimson or warped wagon chassis, it is not flammable. It will still take damage from being in lava, but it won't catch fire, ever. So, a little bit of a situational benefit there, I guess. But, now that we've got all these wheels, all that we need to do is just right-click them on, and there we go. I'm not 100% happy with how this is looking right now, but yeah. I also probably need to add an out here, because clearly we're not quite ending up where we want to be. But, there we go. Right-clicked onto the pieces, and now we have a fully wheeled device. Now, if we want to replace a given wheel, let's say when I have like full dark oak front wheels here, we can just right click that, and off pops the birch, and there goes the new dark oak. If instead we just want to remove it, if you pull out a handy dandy crowbar, also available in this mod, you can just right click and they'll pop right off of wherever they're connected. Very nice, very smooth, I love it. And that is because, also if you know, I click here above, then not much happens, but if I click there, yeah, nice, nice, nice. That is because if I hit F3 and B, we can see that there is a lot more bounding boxes to this thing than it would ordinarily have. So let me break these down. This small squat one down here, that is the chassis bounding box, and that is actually providing the solidity now. No longer is the entire wagon's bounding box solid, which means that we can have a larger bounding box to interact with, whilst also having a much smaller one that we can't actually move through, which is very good. It means that the actual wagon is a solid object, but we don't have to sacrifice like actual interactability, because the smaller a bounding box, the harder it is to actually right-click onto, for having that solidity. The next thing, these pieces on the side are the actual wheel attachment points. So whenever you right-click with a wheel, or a crowbar, it will scan through to find the closest one that has a bounding box that would intersect with what you're looking at, the way you're looking, and from there it determines, you're trying to put something, you're trying to interact with this wheel. So from there, we're actually able to attach our wheels, and of course the whole thing splits up the second you have at least one wheel in it. It would be nice to sort of tilt this depending on what wheels are present or not present, but that's getting a bit complicated and maybe a bit over animated, if I'm honest. But yeah. So that is all of the progress I've had this past week. Another detail is, if you are actually like on the wagon, if you're inside this above space, you can't actually interact with these components. So you just go into the seat section. And There's a reason for that, and also a common sense bit of detail to that. The main, like, the common sense detail is, oh, well, if you're inside of a, like, wagon, how are you leaning out to attach a wheel? That kind of thing. But the more, like, gameplay element of that is, if you're able to replace components like wheels whilst you're inside of the wagon, say if you're mounted on it or something, or if you're just standing in the back part of it, what happens is you're fully able to just, like, replace any damaged parts as you're going. So if there's, like, two people in a wagon, one person can be steering and the other can just keep constantly replacing wheels, which means that the wagon becomes basically indestructible. And that's not a good thing in my book. Hello, Fuzz. Yes, I might have just annoyed them slightly. Hopefully not. But probably. Knowing me, probably. But yeah. So, that particular tweak is just so that you can't have an immortal wagon. You should always have, like, some risk of, like, losing your wagon. I guess there is a lifetime, like, longevity issue, because once the main item in the middle there goes away, it is gone. Another change I've made is that when it dies, it drops any attached components. The idea is that it only ever does that when it doesn't have a chassis anymore, but who knows. But that's more or less it so far. So let's just get you off of the bricks here. Here you are. So, now that we've got wheels, we must go places. So the first thing that we are working on tonight is making the wagon into a mount. And that's going to be looking very strange before we get horses attached to it, but we need to make it a mount before we can start conveying the controls of using it as a mount to the horses. So, yeah. That's our plan of action for today. There hasn't been a whole bunch of other developments around, but yeah, we still need, like, icons for short bows, in fact. Ooh, forgot about that. Huh. But okay, I have a roadmap for this, and also the amount of code in the wagons has grown so much. There is probably close to 1,000, like, lines of code in this thing now. It's about 750, maybe. But, hey. Also, for those curious, the only other multi-part entity in Minecraft, and vanilla Minecraft at the very least, is the Ender Dragon. It is the only multi-part entity, so it is the only entity that has, like, any touching onto that system at all. So I am using the system that controls the position of wings and head and tail of the Ender Dragon, a draconic ruler of an alternate dimension, to help you put wheels onto your, like, wagon. Just do be like that sometimes. Do be like that. But okay, so make wagons rideable mounts similar to horses. Okay. This is just how modded Minecraft is, I guess. I mean, it's a system they should use more often. Like, part of the reason I had to make those bounding boxes, those parts that tell you which wheel you're clicking on, is because I originally just used the base bounding box of the wagon, which is fine as long as the wagon doesn't rotate, because it had to be relative. But whilst the model is relatively circular, the bounding box is a constant static aligned to the grid cube, so it doesn't rotate. So firstly, I'm trying to calculate based, like, okay, the yaw, I guess, of where you clicked onto the wagon chassis, but that's not always going to be remotely aligned to where you think you're trying to click. So having it be an actual, like, mobile box, a much smaller one that can be much closer to where I want it to be at all times, means that I can do it much easily. It's still not perfect, because even those boxes can't rotate. You can reshape them, but only in so much as they're affixed to a grid. So item frames, for instance, will change their bounding box to be non-cubic a lot of the time. But yeah, it's an unfortunate shortcoming. Entities really only have 2 values that control their size. You can give them more specific ones by changing their bounding box manually, but even then they have no concept of rotation. So you can't give them a yaw value and rotate them and say, okay, this point that's at the front is always going to be at the front. For comparison, I'm sure that'd help people with this very much. Let's see, Scouts. There you are. Okay, yeah, that'll do, I think. If I could just get a picture, there you are. Right, this is displaying a bug, but don't mind me. This is all of the different hitboxes, the bounding boxes, that go into the Team Fortress 2 Scout. This being Minecraft, I don't think we'd have to go this far, but the major thing is, they're all at different angles. But Minecraft has no concept of that, so we can't really do that. Alas. Okay. Here is the horse, and the horse is probably too much detail for us to actually just clone directly. Angles simply do not exist in Minecraft. Disagree with that one. Except for a 90 degree. Okay, maybe. So, okay, we're looking for some basic stuff. Let's try going for a minecart. Because minecarts, I believe, have some degree of control to them. Because you can get them to move a little bit when you're sat in them. So there is presumably some degree of controlling in here. But I'm not currently seeing it. And it is literally just that one. I see. Just noticed your outfit today is the new sweater. It is. I literally saw this post up at like the very front of my Sainsbury's logo, like recently when I was going to get groceries. I was like, I'm not getting out of here without buying this, am I? So, of course. Let's see, velocities, amplitude, collision we're not after. Position offset, cube. Oh, cube. That's not really interesting one to include. Max speed, tick. Maybe it's in the tick, let's see. Nope. I'm not... Okay, I'm not mistaken. I was about to say I'm not mad. I'm definitely that. But am I mistaken here? I'm sure you can move minecarts a little bit when you're in them. What is this function doing? Nope, I'm actually not seeing any controls in here at all. Am I mistaken? Can move them a bit. Yeah, that's what I'm remembering, but I'm not actually seeing code for it here at all. Player can slowly move the minecart forward while riding it by pressing forward. So, yeah, interesting. I don't see the code for that in here. Okay, well, I guess we go with horses then for the time being. Which might mean that for a brief moment we're able to make our wagons jump, but don't worry too much about it. Okay, so... somewhere in here is the code for the rider controlling what the horse does. We're going to presume that a wagon is always tame. Just putting that out there. Let's see... galloping... GUI... interactions... eating... mounting... dropping the inventory... Why not boats? Boats are a good idea, actually. Hadn't occurred to me. Oh, because boats have a very specific movement system. Boats will only go forwards, and otherwise they will only rotate, and generally not both at the same time. Whereas in this case, we want this to actually be like more like a horse, because especially like horses are what we intend to be attaching it to. So makes sense. Let's see, can be steered, is being ridden, is saddled. Okay, good sign, good sign. So it gets the controlling passenger, manages the yaw, sets its rotation accordingly, yes, good. And then gets the movement from them and applies all of that. Okay. Right. That would seem to be largely the thing that we're after. We don't need to worry about saddles because, again, we presume that you always can. The exception being that if it doesn't have wheels. If it doesn't have wheels, it shouldn't be able to move at all, but we'll worry about that in a bit. We did... Yes, good. Can be steered, has wheels, and get controlling passenger, I guess equals, like, equals, true, does not equal null. And later on, also, make sure that we actually have an attached horse, but later on. Hard at work, keeping tonight wonderful, I see. We don't need to worry about pitch for this particular occasion. Okay, render your offset. This is all just making it spin, essentially. Okay. So now let's see if we can rotate the wagon. Hey, flying. Okay, right. And indeed, we can rotate. It's a little wonky, but hey, it's progress. So next step is forwards and rotate as well. Well, forwards and backwards. Forwards and sides, I guess. I should stress that similar to the boat, only one person can actually control it. little line just makes it slower going backwards than forwards. Okay. And we have jump power involved, which we're not interested in for this exact movement. And then there's the regular travel. Well, the super travel, so yeah. Okay, right. Seems quite straightforward to me. It won't be, I'm sure, but it seems that way. Local to a given entity, the z-axis is their forwards, so... Interesting that when a horse is sat on by a player, they will not move anywhere, but when they're sat on by anything else, they won't. Okay, and then that's more stuff related to whether or not we're looking at jumping. Obviously the wagon doesn't have much in the way of AI, because that would be strange. Although I had a very fun idea of... There's a spell in D&D called Unseen Servant, and Unseen Servants are not capable of a whole ton of stuff, but in the parlance of various oddities, a unseen servant is just a spectral kind of companion, a mob that you can give orders to and deal with stuff. So it'd be really fun, because in 112, the companions were able to be told to mount up onto horses and such. It'd be really fun to use Unseen Servant, point it to go and mount up on a wagon, and then tell it to go somewhere, and have it actually ride the wagon somewhere. Like, that would be really fun. Just be like this, like, unmanned wagon just driving about. Okay, identify that function. That is from Living Entity. It's related to Limb Swing. We don't actually care about Limb Swing, but I guess we'll put it in there just for right now. Two for 3629. This false. There. Okay. This should now mean that we can actually make this move. We can also, like, summon Phantom Steeds. In fact, I think that spell is literally just called Phantom Steed. So being able to, like, summon, like, place down a wagon, give it the wheels, summon a Phantom Steed, leash the wagon to the steed, summon an unseen servant, tell it to mount up in the wagon and just start driving, while you're just, like, sat in the back doing stuff the whole way. It's like, oh, beautiful. Love it. Okay. Mounted up, and... Oh, we're definitely moving. Also, little detail, if you didn't see it there, take a look at the wheels. Took me an utter age to program that, but the wheels do in fact turn in the direction of your travel. So nice. Chef's kiss. Okay, now The wagon does have a step height of 1, so we should be able to drive over that. Yeah. Nice. Are horses that, like, weird? Because I could have sworn they weren't. I could have sworn horses were, like, generally speaking, fine. Let's just see. There's probably something I'm missing in the code there somewhere. Imagine getting compatibility for waystones and or a minimap mod to use them for markers. I did have the idea for the companions in 1.12 that if you... because they go where you point. So if you pointed at, like, a map, it would calculate the overworld coordinates of where you were pointing on the map, and then go there. Which is not the least bit infeasible. I could do that quite happily. This also being quite itinerant. But if you're telling them to go a very long distance, then A, how do you ensure that nothing bad happens to them in the course of that? And B, okay, you're very smooth in rotating. So there's something, we have hecked something up a little bit here. Because that is very jittery. But, okay, right. I've got some squats, I see. And like, they're, like, if you somehow just assume that nothing bad happens to them, like maybe they're invulnerable whilst they're doing that, do you teleport them there? In which case it's basically fast travel? Or do you, like, actually simulate them passing that way, in which case you have to chunk load every chunk on the way? Because if you don't, they'll stop. It could be jittery because it's so wide. No, that's not the cause of it. It should be able to rotate smoothly. So let's just bring up horses and see if there's something I missed. Yes, we do need to implement jumping, just by the by. There we go. Much better. Yeah, missed that. But yes, here's the outfit for today. Looking quite nice. Very simple top, not my usual kind of color scheme, but yeah, there we are. And you've already, of course, seen my leggings. These are the ones that really make my butt look good, because there is a seam that runs right up them. But okay. Whoop. Oh yes, and we are joined by Carol here today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. No. Sweden has been chroma keyed. Oh. Oh yeah, you are pretty close to green screen color, aren't you? Well. Okay. Time to pimp our ride a little bit more. So, let's see. We are probably going to be trying to translate this instead to the horse from the wagon rather than have it be at the wagon, but we'll see. Plushy dobs? Oh dear. Which one? Because we have Carol and we have Rose today. Rose is very peppy. But also Carol is an effigy of my deceased grandmother, so... God, I wonder if I could make a mimic wagon. You just find like an oak wagon or something in the middle of nowhere, and then you get onto it and it starts attacking. Oh, wagon mimics, there's an idea. Yeah, that'd be evil. That'd be intensely evil. Kinda want to do it, but still. Okay, this is part of tick, which I definitely have up here. There's the code that makes sure this thing goes away if it doesn't have an actual chassis. Horse code, as ever, remains an utter nightmare. I kind of feel like you shouldn't be able to tell a horse to jump. How do you tell a horse to jump exactly when you're on the wagon? Maybe this time? Okay. So there we are. There is Rose. With her little bell. She is very tiny, and she is very cute. And her facial expression is constantly very sad, but, you know. There you go. Yeah, I kind of feel like you maybe shouldn't even be able to jump. Because, like, surely that requires an interaction with the horse that you don't normally have. Plus, if you have your horse, like, jump a fence, the wagon can't go over the fence. So, what happens then? You've just hacked yourself, basically. So yeah, I actually don't think we need to do that, come to think of it. Call it idiot-proofing, I guess. What about sprinting? Can you make your horse sprint? I'm fairly certain you can. Ride Shadowfax show us the meaning of haste. Can go off a ramp but not actually jump? I mean, yes, I guess. I feel like that's maybe like a situation of you can ride from the comfort and safety of the wagon, or you can be on the horse and up in front riding that and the wagon's just following behind. Like, maybe that's something that would be a meaningful thing to have differentiation between. Like, maybe you're the maybe you're the one that actually knows the route to where you're going, but your three friends don't, so they go sit in the wagon, whereas you control the horse up front. Maybe. Okay. If indeed we don't put the jumping code in, then our next thing is to actually implement connecting this to a horse. Look at my to-do list. So, rideable mounts. Yep. Allow wagons to be leashed to horse-type entities. Magical mystery tour, please, board wagon. Okay. That's going to require us looking at and re-implementing parts of living entity, I believe. Or is it mob entity? It's one of the two. leash. There we are. Leash holder, leash ID, leash MBT tag. We're using a leash because it's a vanilla item, players are already familiar with it, so they understand that you right-click with a leash onto something that you want to connect, usually to a fence or some such. So, in this case, should be helpful in terms of making sure that they actually, like, go to the thing. If you're on the horse, you can be keeping an eye on the surroundings, you have more vision there than anywhere else on the wagon, assuming you have a canopy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not 100% certain on how exactly we're going to implement canopies, because I really want them to be solid, like, so that somebody shoots an arrow from outside at you, then it actually should impact the wagon. And also, like, the notion of people, like, dropping down, like, having a wagon, like, pull along an alleyway while you're jumping out of a robbery kind of thing, on a window above, you'd land on the canopy and stuff like that. That's really cool stuff. I'd love to have that. It's a little more complicated to do, given Minecraft's limitations, though. So, maybe not. If they're on the horse, you can quickly detach if needed. I don't know about that part. One thing I do really like is the interaction with the crowbars. So that if you want to be like really sneaky or just like troll somebody, you can just like literally steal the wheels off their wagon when they park. Or like, if you're on a wagon that's like alongside another wagon that's like trying to escape, you can use a crowbar to like remove their wheels and slip them down. Because they're gonna have to stop to put those wheels back on. It's like, there's so much room for entertainment there. But okay. So, let's see, that is the write and read. Let's ignore that for a hot minute and go right down to here where most of this leash code is. What do we want to call this then? I wonder. Instead of a lead, should we call it a connection? What do you... It's a bit and bridle that horses wear. Reins, I guess? Would we call it reins? Is that what I'm thinking of? Let me see here. Harness reins, neck rein, riding aids, yep. Horse-drawn vehicle, okay. I guess I'm just gonna call it a rein. I'm sure there's actually a different name for it, but I'm gonna presume it's a rein. Just so that we don't, like, accidentally override stuff from living entity we don't want to be interacting with. Do we get whips so someone can go all Indiana Jones? Tempting. I don't know how over the top I want to go in programming for that. But very tempting. Also, I feel like they'd get annoying. The main function of a whip and such inside of D&D is they're range damage, they're relatively quick, but the main thing is that they can cause trip attacks. So... I haven't implemented trip attacks just yet. but okay, we're basically just re-implementing these. Under a different name. Whips can be used to make horses go faster on a wagon. That's a bit cool. I don't know if I want to give that. I don't know if I want to implement that. Historically, no, but they didn't hit a horse with such a whip. No, we're not getting entirely Ben-Hur in this. I think. Oh lord, this is complicated, isn't it? Shouldn't be too surprised. The crack is enough to scare most animals with mildly cruel. Yeah, true indeed. How do I type, please? Okay, so there is a mount entity packet involved here, which is probably something we want to pay attention to. What does that do? Handle entity attach. That doesn't help me much here. Clone the code for the moment. I think I'm probably going to have to replace that with something proprietary. We shall see. If you want them to run faster from danger, that makes sense. Yes, but not by becoming the danger, or making them think I'm the danger. Oh boy. Oh yes, a thing I forgot to mention. The chassis are now spawn eggs. They're like wagon spawn eggs, essentially. They're technically blocks, which is what we use the model for, to get the full wagon chassis look, but now instead of placing a block when you right click on them, they actually just spawn an entity with that particular chassis, so very good, very good. we're steadily seeing how much of a hassle it is to make a wagon, but also how durable that can be. Thankfully, it looks like most of this code so far is fairly straightforward. Not really seeing anything that strikes me as being utterly absurd. I'm going to continue taking this away, taka, and I'll be back in about 10 minutes. So go grab yourselves a drink, go grab yourselves a snack, take your meds, all that sort of thing. Catch you soon. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a nice little break there. I have just been given 10 curls, 5 kilograms to do, so... Oh boy. On the non-dominant as well, which is my left. Oh, yeah, well, I can only handwrite with my right, but yeah, I'll take this. Oh boy. My pure... my poor, incredibly weak programmer arms. There we go. Okay. So, just before we left off there, we were trying to, in effect, re-implement leads so that we have better control of them and can actually get them to work. We want to make sure that we do not interact with the default vanilla leash code, because the leash code doesn't really handle leading things to other things, which is kind of the main thing that we want to do. But okay. So let's add a little thing up here. Public boolean can be leashed to. I'm presuming it's an entity. Before I start coding. Oh no. What have you done? Is it a living entity then? Player entity specifically. Okay. Didn't I just do the curls? Yeah, I just did that. That is literally what I just did, so. Okay, so let's system out. I don't have visuals on this just yet because we just added it. And then that's just to start it being leashed, so there's another piece for that. Where does that get called? I need to check that. Do I not have access to process initial interact? I would have thought I would. but I don't see it. Let's see. If leash holder equals player, clear the leash. Okay. This means that absolutely no part of the existing lead code is going to work, but that's fine for us in this particular case. Because we don't want this to function exactly like a lead. A lead, for instance, will interact with the attached entity's AI, because it will use its navigator to try and get to things. That's what we want with the wagon. What we want with the wagon is to pull it towards, or repel it from, the attached creature. We don't want the wagon to attempt to try and pathfind, in short. The wagon should be very dumb by that degree. Okay, so let's grab a lead. Attached and cleared, apparently. It'd be pretty funny if your wagon got possessed and started driving itself. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay, so that happened in one fell swoop. I need to check if we indeed do actually have access to process initial interact. Let's see. Should more or less be the only thing that has a hand variable. But I'm not seeing it in here. Swing. Check Death Totem protection. Get held item. Active hand management, as it were. Okay. Mob entity does do it, so let's have a look at them. Where's that coming from? So here's a question, where's this one coming from? Is that being overridden from somewhere? Is that from entity? Yes, it is. Okay. So, living entity, let's override that. Nope. Does mob? No. Interesting. Hmm. So these are separate things then. Well, we can more or less just clone that, I think. Once we tidy it up. These are presumably things that take priority. So what does this one do? That is the major one. This is the thing that we actually, like, do our other stuff from, so that's apply player interaction. But that requires a vector. Where do we get the vector from? Actually, do we require the vector in this? There's a question. No, we don't. That's why we have that's partially why we have the other things. Thing, didn't I? Yeah, there are two different things here. Oh boy. So what's the other one? What is that responsible for? That just says true. Apparently. Our main problem right now is that we're doing everything at once when we need to be only doing one. Wow, that is literally just, is it success or consume? That's just dumb. But, okay. That's weird. Okay, so process initial interact gets called by that. We pass that to apply player interaction, which does all of this stuff. Should mean that things go quite nicely. We'll see. What we are looking for is I click it once, it actually gives me the leash. I click it again, and then it deleashes essentially. It's not going to care at all exactly what's happening whilst it's leashed, but we need that time. God, I've been getting audio static all night. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I don't think you can, but I've been getting audio static all day and parts of yesterday and such. And as near as I can tell, it's because of the USB socket that my headphones are connected to. Which unfortunately for me happens to be part of my keyboard, which is also dying. So I'm probably going to need a new keyboard fairly soon. Okay, click. And it did both still. Yeah, we're still getting both. See that? Is it because we're not... I wonder if it's because I'm not setting a cooldown? Is that maybe it? Maybe. Not seeing it. can do that with items, though. So let's see. What is an item that I put a limit on? Caltrops, maybe? Needles, I think. Apparently not needles. What am I thinking of? The repeating crossbow, that's it. That's what I put a cooldown on. Get cooldown tracker, there you are. There. Also, if it's attaching, how is it not removing my item? That's a curie. Still, the fact that it knows that it's clear means that it does correctly identify that we're in that value. So that's something. Now, my current plan is predominantly that horses and donkeys are the major things that you use to pull these things around. But I wonder if I could make it a little bit more versatile. Like maybe there's other creatures you can just use. How did it's doing both, despite the fact that we've told it... Interesting, okay. Is there some reference, perhaps, to what side we're on? Or is that what I'm seeing? Is that it, I wonder? Unicorns, dragons, just like big beasts of burden. Like if you manage to somehow tame a boulette, for instance. I feel like attaching it to a dragon would be very unwise. Hey, girl. How you doing? We are currently attempting to lasso ourselves a wagon. Not all dragons have wings. Under those cases, I believe they're referred to as worms. It's a big nomenclature bugbear, but yeah. Which is also another creature I need to implement at some point. Okay, no, that is both sides. It is server on both ends. Huh. How are we doing that? How is that even possible? Yes, Cam, I'm aware of the spelling. It is frequently pronounced worm. I try to pronounce it worm, but... It's also just like a various thing that happens depending on the setting, so who knows. But yeah, how are we... How, I guess, just how. We should only be pulling this once. Like a rhino, but with a triceratops head crest, 3 horns, and a beak. Don't know what a bugbear is, and whenever I hear it, all I think of is a bare body with a bug/beetle head. That is considerably more terrifying than what a bugbear actually looks like. That sounds that description kind of reminds me of an Umbar Hulk, actually. See if that's what I'm thinking of. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. These dudes. That's a whole mess of stuff. But a bugbear, conversely, is just a real hairy dude. just a big old fuzzball. Apparently they've developed bra technology. Didn't know that. Thanks for that, Forgotten Realms wiki. Big cat creature for the savannah. I was daydreaming and making stuff up in work. Oh, yeah. But yeah, just like the capacity to have stuff that's not just horses and donkeys. That'd be really interesting. Yeah, then somehow, despite clicking once, we're getting on the same side, not just client and server, we're getting 2 interacts. Despite the fact the first one should put us on a cooldown. I wonder why that's happening. Also, it's not shrinking, which is an interesting detail here. I wonder if that's because we're doing that and doesn't quite know how to handle what we're doing. Adds more to the savannah, but also adds more to the savannah, even if it's just a creature. True. Which is kind of Varus Oddity's whole mandate, is to make the world feel more diverse and alive. Okay, so if we get rid of that, hopefully it'll figure itself out. Yeah, still does it twice. There is something about that packet, I wonder. I wonder if we go back to process initial interact, if that gets called anywhere else. Shouldn't, but just to be on the safe side. Perfect. Night flying. Have a good slip. Okay, so this is a problem because if it attaches but then detaches in the exact same, well, if it just does that basically, then we don't know exactly, we're not able to do anything with it because it just doesn't exist. It exists for a fraction of a second, like probably about a 20th. So, next question. Why does that not happen with the mob? That's my curiosity here. Also, why do we have 2 functions for this? strange. But everything else more or less seems fine here. Like, we're definitely getting all the pieces happen that should be happening, except that they're happening in the exact same stroke. Attached leash. Immediately after detached leash. Why? I suppose I could just have a cooldown timer built in here. Definition of insanity? Ah, welcome to programming. Okay, and then over on tick, we can just, if this dot rains timer is greater than 0, minus minus. Okay, that should mean that the wagon institutes a 1-second delay between interactions involving the rains. Not in controls, just the rains. I'm not seeing any interaction here at all. There's that, and then that. Curious. An odd change. Oh, did I take out the... Yeah, I took out the actual things that tell me things are happening. That's why. It's because I'm a dingus. On living tick, we want to, assuming that we have a reins holder, we need to actually rotate towards them. So we need to change our rotation yaw to be facing it. Not very much generally, unlike what we had with travel. Actually, we can probably just do it there, can't we? Yeah. So just change controlling passenger for the reins holder. that separates the controlling passenger from the reins holder. Now that, however, is only going to set us to be facing the same direction as the reins holder at all times. What we want to do is face the reins holder from our current position. For that, we need a vector. We need to calculate your value from a vector. Which would be reins.getPositionVector.subtract our getPositionVector. Double your equals f(a)tan2 I look at. Why? Okay. That'll either work or it'll make it face the exact opposite direction. One way or another, we'll find out. You are inclined to hit funny little buttons. Like those absolutely completely faked videos of dogs using language buttons, those ones. There we go. Okay. Let's give it a shot. So now, instead of facing whichever way the controlling passenger is facing, it should try to face whichever direction, or it should try to face the direction to whoever held the lead. Which should be me right now, but does not seem to want to be. Oh, and also there's a problem. Yeah, just that this is now null, so it doesn't care. So let's move that. Into our, I guess, living tick? Yeah, makes sense to be in the living tick. Might just be a like face this thing. Let's find out. Nope, apparently not. Okay, that's fine. So that's them distinguishing which way we face and how we move between two different entities is a start. Later on, I'm also going to be saying that it can't actually move sideways. That'll just be data that we pass to the horse. Oh, which, there's a point I did remember that if you are currently, like, in the driving seat of a wagon, that a player has the reins off, don't try to use that on the actual player. That could be bad. Okay, it's got trouble there. I feel like I'm on the right track with that, but apparently not. I'm also sure I've done facing before, but I can't remember where. And also only happening during the living tick, so let's try moving that into the main tick. See if that clears it up a little bit. And then I'll do my squats, just so you're happy. It's always going towards 0, which is interesting. I wonder why that is. Have I got this value wrong? Let's see if I actually have it on record of where I used it. This is related to the travel. Okay. Yeah, that calculation there is just to determine which direction the wheels should spin. The third eye also uses this a bit to make sure that it's actually facing you all the time. Let's see, the forward vec to the motion vec. So I think I have got it backwards, first of all. But it doesn't make sense that it would always be 0. Creature entity, is that where the look helper comes in? Apparently not. Look controller, there you are. It is part of mob entity. Okay. So then... clamped rotation, okay. Just rotates the head, but... Ah, there we are. That's why. It's because the calculation's off. Or rather, the scaling of the calculation is off. I need to get the yaw value, which is that, and then multiply it. Because otherwise it's just so small a value that it's stuck at basically 0. So it probably is rotating to face me, we just can't tell. Because there's a difference of like a degree. I can never quite tell what value. I'm fairly certain Minecraft uses radians for the rotation of its entities, but sometimes it's hard to tell. Because that is a radians value, for instance. Okay, progress. It's back to front, obviously, but it is progress. do my squats now. That squats stay apparently, not quite so much on the curls I noticed, but I'm not going to complain too heavily. Because these are very heavy. They're not like, they're clearly not unliftable levels of heavy, but they are nonetheless a significant heft, especially when held at arm's length. Okay. And there goes my knee. Oh boy. 20. Alright. So now that we've gotten our wagon to actually face the reins holder, our next thing is to pass that reins holder position to somebody else. And for that, I think we need a event bus moment. I'm trying to remember what the exact event is. It's like when you interact with an entity. There we are. Entity interact event. What we can also do is have the wagon actually move closer to, like, ensure that it's within a range of its reins holder. So if distance is greater than, let's see, we want the width of it at least, so that would be 1.6, 1.75, I think? Or 3.5. So 1.75 plus our minimum distance, which we will say is going to be a block and a half. Or at least the minimum distance of also the, oh boy, yeah, I just realized. That's going to have to be a little bit more complicated. Okay, that would be right next to one another, so let's add a block. Then we need to move ourselves. So that's the direction 2, so we want to do that by remainder, I think. Okay, that should mean that it tries to get to within that range of us. Should being the operative word. We'll see. That is also completely agnostic to speed, so saves us a bit of trouble there. That might have been the wrong direction. Yeah. That might have been the wrong direction. That card hasn't gone forever, it's persistent, but... Who knows how far it just went. I could just set the position, but if I just set the position, then a horse going for an area that a wagon is too small for will end up with the wagon just being more in the walls. So I wanted to actually try to move. Because then it's subject to actual, like, terrain limitations and such. Somebody's gonna want to clip that. I right-click on the wagon and it neumes away. Let's see. Nope. Okay, well, we need a new wagon, I guess. Because I don't think I can find that one. I think this was the direction it went, but who knows how far it got before it unloaded. There it is. Just in case, I'm going to face the opposite direction when I do that. Okay, the wheels are going the wrong way, but it is following me. Grant. As long as it stays loaded, it should continue to work. Hooray! Progress. Okay, let me go a bit faster here. It shouldn't have much trouble keeping up with me, because it's specifically trying to make sure that it stays at that range. I'm definitely going the wrong way. There we go. There's everything. Yeah, it should also probably zero out its axis, because it is trying to fly currently. It should not be trying to fly. Also, hey random horse, how you doing? Okay. Progress. Good progress. Very good progress. Now let's change that to does not equal which will then mean that it tries to actually go in the opposite direction if we get too close. That will mean it actually tries to maintain a specific distance. Oh, and yes, also let's zero out the direction there. So there we go. Very nice, very nice. I'm not terribly fond of the jerking that it apparently still has. But, very good, very good. So it's a little bit elastic, but it is properly actually working the way we want it to. Still moves, currently, because that's what we got going. Very new me. But that will be going away shortly. Okay, another thing is we go to the move function, and I take my break, and so you find out what I do to there in a hot minute. See you in about 2 minutes. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Right. That's the right screen. Welcome back, everybody, to Building Blocks for our final hour of the evening, and we have made a great deal of progress on our wagons today. So we are trying to make a manipulable wagon that you can have multiple people on, that you can change the parts in and out of for various benefits and whatnot, and that you can attach to another entity in order to have that entity be the driving force of the wagon. Just before we left off there, we got our wagon to actually face whatever it is currently attached to, and to follow it at a specified distance of basically a block in between them. So now I've just gone down to the move function. Where have you gone, move function? Hello? There you are. Okay, and I've uncommented out these particular couple of lines, which basically mean that the wagon itself cannot go sideways. It can only go forwards or backwards, which is true of actual wagons. This one will turn, so it can nonetheless go around corners, but it's going to have a bit of inflexibility because of that. Also, it doesn't have wheels, it can't move at all. I've also, as a direct consequence of that, gone up here, and if our wagon is more than 20% beyond the distance it should be to its actual attached creature, in our case currently just me, then it will break its reins, which is similar to what leads already do when you get too far from the entity, but in this case it'll mean that we actually don't just like get stuck in a shallow thing, the horse wanders off forever, and then eventually when it comes back it just like plunks. We want it to actually be able to stop, if that happens. So we shouldn't see too much change because it's already rotating fast enough to actually be able to see us constantly. Right now it functions very similar to... This is an example that's going to be extremely specific to me, but I don't know about anybody else. It's basically like a car pulling a caravan. There's a bend in the middle, essentially. Okay. There we are. L. Interesting. I appear to have broken the code for actually mounting this thing. Drats. A car with a trailer? I guess. A car with anything attached to the hookup? I don't know what to call it. Let's see. Where's the interact? There you are. Yeah, I appear to have broken the interaction. Range timer equals 0. Then if we... Oh, right. I forgot. I just added a thing to this to control exactly where you collect from. So I need to check... There you are. So there's an actual, like, hookup part now. Axle front should suffice for the moment, at least. There. Bull bar? Tow bar. I think that's what we're thinking of. Might be called something else in Australia. Yeah, it's a tow bar. Okay. seeing two different things down here. I'm not sure exactly which one is correct. Ah, I know what's going on. Okay, hang on. Inside of tick, there is a thing that's updating all of the bounding boxes, and yep, there we are. That needs to be case chassis. There. Otherwise, it doesn't need to change at all. Canopy will need to change once we get it, because it'll be something that exists, and it exists conditionally, essentially. This is very powerful, actually. Being able to just attach new bounding boxes to an entity is really, really handy. Not as much for making solid objects, but still pretty handy. Like if you build like an entire cubic base out of these things, then you pretty much are limited to only ever turning it 90 degrees at a time. But you know, everything else, nice. You can render it however you like, but it needs to have it ultimately needs to align to the grid at some stage. Okay, now we should have our toe point. I hope. There we are. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So if I click on you, we still have an issue. God, this is beginning to look like quite a mess now, isn't it? Okay, let me check. At least now it's actually staying in the right place, but it probably just needs to be a little bit different in position as well. Okay, interacts, there. So if we get the targeted inventory, that might be the problem actually. It might just be thinking that it doesn't have an inventory spot. So it's bypassing it entirely. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. Well, that's fairly simple. We're already overwriting what happens when you select it anyway, so we'll just set that to 0. So when we interact with it, we retrieve whatever part we're looking at that ostensibly has an inventory spot. And if that happens to be the reins, then do the stuff. Okay. So front middle of the log of the seat is our tow bar, essentially. That also, conveniently, gives us a good point for clicking onto the wagon in order to detach, which is something else we need to do. Which is why I added it. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. A little bit. Only a little though. Okay. So there's our point. So does not seem to want to work. Why not? Ah, I can see one thing. It's because the range timer isn't being activated there. So if that's, then do the thing. Okay. Should really be like activating the range timer only if either of these is true, but I take it we like the top then. As I say, it's not my usual colors, but They are technically my colours, I guess, so... One of several flags I could fly with, was. Okay. Nope, still not. Interesting. It should be identifying that. I should just have a switch in here, but yeah, for right now it's fine. I can sense that this is going to be particularly irritating. If I can find out why we keep having this double clicking kind of event. Once we've got this whole shebang working, at the very least, then the next step is to add chests to this particular wagon. So a cart will have a double chest worth of space, whereas a wagon will have two double chests, so one at the rear and one close to the front, which you will select based on what seat you're in. Yeah, it's not detecting the seat. Well, it's not detecting the reins, because otherwise we'd be seeing it there. Can we check the inventory? Slot greater than. Ah, that'd be what? Greater than or equal to 0. Again, I could probably just change that to a case. Alright, there. Okay, chassis doesn't need to do anything. Wheel and canopy will need to be based on their contents. And then there's the rates. Okay. There we go. A little bit easier, hopefully. Okay. I wonder if it would be interesting to, like, when you break the reins, if there's just like something left attached to the wagon that you right click and it drops the lead. It's like a something happened here. Like, you find a wagon that's got, like, a broken reins, it's got, like, 2 missing wheels, that kind of thing. Okay, there we go. And we're back. Good, good, good. We're still... Our wheels are still going the wrong way, but we're back. And we broke the reins. Yep, there they are. So we probably want to increase the range limit there a little bit. But, progress. Very good. I also probably want to make that smaller, I feel. And make it maybe actually closer to the top of the landing box, but for right now it's fine. God, just the mess of cubes this thing has become. Ah. Only like that, though. Right, where's that horse going? Horsey. I have need of you. Because now I need to actually connect you to that. Let's see... Wagon control, wagon always follow a leashed horse, turn to face it, correct, good. Move backwards or forwards only, good. Okay. So now when we get our interact event in bus server, is it the player interact? I can't recall anymore. I know we searched it, I can't remember what it is. Player interact? There we are. Entity interact specific? When a player right clicks an entity for all general entity interactions. Okay. Cancel. Good. Okay, so we're going to make the player in order to know if it's a player that is currently holding the reins to a wagon. And for the time being, for the moment at least, I'm going to remove the code that breaks our leash. But it's good to know that code works. Okay, so let's break this down into steps. Retrieve reined wagon from player. Lucien, good to see you. Welcome to a fun evening of where we've been making wagons. And we're just about to try and write the code that will allow us to attach them to horses. Hopefully. Let's see, determine validity of entity. Hold the line. We only need to hold the line if it's a hate rate, which I have buttons for, so there's that. It's one of the nicest raids I've had all week. Anyways. Okay. Connect wagon to entity. There we go. So that's the first we need to do, is find the wagon. So let's see, list, entity, wagon, wagons equals player dot get world, get entities, of entity wagon class. You must hold the line or enjoy the raid. I think in this context, so you enjoy the raid. Okay, we'll say 16 blocks is our range here. I think we can add a predicate here. Just finished playing the final station. Oh, that's an interesting game, yeah. There we go. Okay, so now we know all of the wagons that we find in that radius are in fact currently being raided. Nice jumper? Why thank you. I bought it at Sainsbury's because I saw it on the way in and couldn't say no to it. I am not immune to rainbow capitalism, but also heck rainbow capitalism. Okay, so run for our list of currently reigned wagons. Let's see, I need to find the closest one just as a matter of course, so let's say... Personally, I wouldn't recommend pulling multiple wagons. Our current plan is that it will impact your movement quite significantly, but... But let me see. If closest wagon equals null, or wagon distance... get distance squared, it doesn't really matter too much. The player is lower than closest wagon distance to the player, then closest wagon equals wagon. Okay, if closest wagon does not equal null, closest wagon set reigns holder that living entity, and yes, send the attached notification. Not that it'll do anything right now. And then cancel this particular event so that nothing else happens. Okay. So that should mean that if we have the wagon following us, and then right-click on the horse, it should start to follow the horse instead of us. I just need to make sure that this server is... Yep, good. this bus is actually functional. Grand. Fingers crossed that we're about to have an actually functional cart. We won't be able to control the horse from the cart just yet, but it'll work. Allow the player to pull as many wagons as possible, but each one adds a slowness debuff. When you pull over 100 wagons, you get slowness 100. I'd prefer not to have it be effects. Because if it's effects, then there's a theoretical possibility that you can just get immunity to it. Like from your creature types or some such, whereas this is meant to be like, this is a heavy thing. Okay. Exhibit A, horse. Exhibit B, wagon. Click on leash point of wagon. Wagon is now trying to follow us. Okay. Click on horse. Interesting. Not entirely clear where my wagon just went. Your guess is as good as me, Lalable. I have no idea where it just went. That definitely did not happen when it was trying to follow us, did it? Spent 3 hours trying to figure out comparators? Oh dear. I'm not even sure I understand comparators right now. Let's see. TP. If we're lucky, it's still within, like, loaded range. Okay. It is. It's just also not here. So what happened there? That's the question. Check behind me. No, I think I'm good. Immune to carpool, just to be buff. Yeah, maybe for you, Aluka. I like to be here too, even if I'm not going to buy it as the thing. I wanted to spend resources on a shirt that says Yas Queen. I guess. So what happened there, exactly? I wanted to go to the reins holder. Okay, right. Was the delta just too strong, maybe? Cart went pop. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, let me just... change it to be a single value, a single digit. Will redeem channel points to make lying buff enough to pull the cart. I might be strong enough to push a cart. Not 100% certain. Wouldn't recommend it because I'm probably shorter than most, but you know. Maybe it calculated the distance as being massive somehow? Not sure. Okay, well, it doesn't exist now apparently, so it's somewhere lost in unloaded chunks probably. So we gotta make a new wagon. Fortunately, I have all these wagon parts on me. Definitely need to fix that double clicking kind of error. Whip. Bye. Fascinating. Have I got this value backwards? It was just sort of sailing off into the distance there. That was fascinating to see. What is going on that was for some reason not happening before? When we only had it attached to us. Separation between the offset vector from point A to point B should be vector B minus A. Namely, that position vector there. Normalized, and then applied to the entity, that should mean that it is constantly trying to move towards us. So why not? Now my brain hurts. I'm sorry. I always have to remember. I always have to recite that little bit of vector math to myself because it's very easy to get the opposite way around, and then you end up with things flying off into the distance. Like if you get the polarity of that particular formula the wrong way around. I think I can just about see it. Oh, hey, we found both of them. Apparently. Is this our... Yeah, this is the previous one. Okay. Yep, that's reversed somehow. Fairly certain it shouldn't be, but somehow it is. Oh, and Stone wants me to do some squats. Okay. This is weird. Chat can attest, it was working fine until we started attaching it to something else. And then it suddenly decided it's going to fly off into oblivion. Yep, that's the one. Why you do this? Why? Get back here. Come on. I'm kind of steering it, actually. This is weird. Did it happen when Lucian's during the stream? Who knows? This is very weird. I'm just gonna do that for the moment, and maybe it's a magnitude problem. I'm not sure. It still shouldn't be going in the opposite direction. It just only started happening when we did that. Oh. I think yeah. River! Hey! I think I know what's happening. I think I know how the connector code could do this. It could be that it thinks that it's attaching it to itself. That, I think, could be it. That's the only thing that comes to mind here. But also, hey, everybody that came over, don't pay much attention to Soul. Although the notion of attaching wagons to each other is certainly an interesting one. But I feel like I would need to somehow what's the phrase here? Aggregates the weights, the like the speed slow down. So if you had like a trail of 4 different wagons connected to each other in the series, if they would actually like slow down the animal by like 4 times. Okay. Let's try this again. Nope. But I did also reverse the polarity of the thing there, so that might now actually be wrong. Let's see, that's the tick. Is that the tick? Is that the one I need to do? Yes. Yes, I need to invert the I need to reverse the polarity of the wagon flow. And while that boots back up, I will do my squats again. Well, squats? Yes, squats. Oh. I began to think having the weight involved was maybe a poor choice, but oh well. At some point that also will not in fact leave me significantly out of breath. But it is not this day, so bleh. I think that's the direction we need to go to get back to base. Okay, come on, follow me. Not like that. Although that is back to base, so I guess a little bit like that. And it's off again. Right. I'm not sure what's going on now. I really am not entirely clear as to why it's doing that. It can't be a magnitude issue because the position is normalized. If I get rid of that, is it going to work again? Let's find out. There's one more thing I can do to, like, test before we're done tonight, which is to chuck an object or an entity of such onto the cart and start moving the cart, because if I've coded this correctly, that's a big if, entities that are on top of the wagon should move with the wagon. Essentially creating a vehicle that you don't actually have to be sitting in. I'm feeling glum, because if I don't get this working, then I won't have achieved my goal tonight, but we have achieved a fair bit tonight. So I can't be too glum. Oh! It might have actually proven it for me. Hello, sir? 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 you actually able to follow me properly now? Well, Sir's getting rammed by the thing, but... yeah, that feels... okay. That feels better. I think it might have actually just been the sideways code. So now if I get that delta back in, i.e. the speed variable, I don't remember what the polarity of that value was. There we go. Okay. Once I've got the mechanics of it going, get the rendering going, not tonight of course, but then it'll be a matter of having a lead from that lead point to the actual entity. And because we are calculating the ideal distance based upon the size of the entity, we should be able to attach basically anything. Including villagers, if you want it to be interesting, I guess. At some point, it would be good to also allow for multiple creatures to be pulling a single wagon, but that could also be quite a pain to code, so I don't know if I'll manage that. Why do I have a Neverite axe? Oh, there was a weapon display over there. Right, yes, that's why. Okay, you, horsey, pull this. Yay! Perfect, perfect. Doggy sled version of the cart, essentially. Or just like, maybe you have like a carriage and that requires 2 horses or something. But yay! We have successfully created a wagon that we can link to another entity. Woohoo! Whoop, mind the witch. Or not, I guess. Very, very happy there. Alright. Let me see if I can maneuver this gent back into position. There we go. Manslaughter just hit the witch with a cart, I guess. The coach from at the museum. Oh. But yeah, nice. I like it. And if we want it to... oh, is it now following us? It is following us. That's... so it wasn't following the horse at all. Damn! Damn, I've got a bug to continue to fix then, I guess. Okay. But that's about all I have time for tonight. So, I hope everybody has enjoyed. My next stream should be on Thursday. I don't stream on Wednesdays anyways, but just to be advised, there is the A Day Off Twitch motion for tomorrow in protest of Twitch's complete absence of efforts to curb the hate rate problem, which we've had on this channel as well. So kindly, if somebody streams on Twitch tomorrow, if at all possible, avoid it. Don't watch it. Do not give, like, Twitch the view. Also, I think Arcadum is, like, streaming tomorrow, and definitely don't do that either. otherwise, my next stream is on Thursday, where I'll be doing some stuff with the Little Madness crew, and then on Saturday we have the we have the carousel with my patrons playing some random games, and I'll be back for more development on this wacky wagon on Tuesday. Meanwhile, I do make videos over at youtube.com/humorcomic, and everything I do is powered by you at patreon.com/lying. Hope you've all enjoyed. Have a good night. I'll catch you later.